When a cleaning lady whispered this to a millionaire at 3 a.m., it changed everything forever. In the shadows of the colossal penthouse, an eerie stillness settled like a heavy blanket over the city. The sky was ink black, dotted only by the distant, flickering lights of hidden stories below. It was 3 a.m., the witching hour, when secrets festered and whispered promises danced in the dark. And something was about to unfold, something unbelievable. Nathaniel Hawthorne, the billionaire tycoon known for turning dreams into dollars, couldn't shake the feeling he was being watched. Then came the unexpected presence. A cleaning lady named Maria, virtually invisible to the world around her, had crept into his thoughts and his life. She was scrubbing the marble floors when their eyes met, as if struck by lightning, sparking a connection that felt both unnatural and powerful. Her voice trembled, but it was laced with urgency. "You don't know what's coming. It's worse than you think," she said, pulling him into an uncharted territory of uncertainty. A strange chill ran down Nathaniel's spine. Was he really hearing her correctly? He shifted uncomfortably, his heart racing. Who was she to deliver news that could shatter the foundation of his success? Yet, there was something in her gaze and intensity that clashed with the vacancy of the high-rise. People rarely listened to the help, they overlooked their existence. But Nathaniel felt drawn in, realizing this was not just a casual moment. This was the crossroads of fate. He leaned forward, gripping the edge of his glass table, something primal bubbling within him. "What do you mean?" he demanded, his pulse echoing louder than the silence. Maria's hands trembled as she hesitated. "There's a shadow moving in the city, and it's coming for you. You need to prepare. Everything you've built could come crashing down." "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." Nathaniel felt the weight of her words bear down on him as the shadows seemed to stretch, curling around the room like dark smoke. Questions raced through his mind. Who was pursuing him? What did she know? The energy shifted, sending an electric jolt through him. But Maria, with glassy eyes filled with secrets untold, took a step back, already fading into the depths of the night, her silhouette swallowed by darkness. "Find the key," she murmured as she vanished, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions. Nathaniel stood frozen, heart pounding, mind spiraling. What key? And why hadn't he sensed this impending doom sooner? The air buzzed with unanswered riddles, and suddenly, everything felt like it was spiraling out of control. Who was watching? What lurked in the shadows? The pulse of his lavish life now seemed fragile, the glimmer of wealth tarnished by unease. And as the clock ticked, he couldn't shake the feeling that a storm was brewing. The future wasn't just unwritten, it threatened to shatter everything he held dear. Nathaniel stumbled back from the glass table, his breath coming in sharp gasps. Every wall in his penthouse seemed to close in, shadows creeping closer, whispering tales of doom. Find the key echoed in his mind, a riddle he was desperate to unravel. He'd built empires, struck deals across continents, but this was different. This was a warning cloaked in mystery. His heart raced faster as paranoia prickled at his skin. He paced the floor, every click of his polished shoes resonating like a gunshot in the tense silence. He grabbed his phone, dialing his security team. "Jacob, I need eyes on the city. Something's off." His voice trembled slightly, betraying the hard exterior he carefully cultivated. The answer was there, a murmur at the end of the line, betrayal hidden beneath layers of familiarity. "Sir, is everything all right? This late? Just do it," he snapped, hanging up before waiting for an affirmation. He hated showing weakness, but panic bubbled beneath the surface, threatening to erupt. His gaze dropped to the sparkling skyline beyond the massive floor-to-ceiling windows. Each glimmer of light felt like a spying eye watching, waiting. Nathaniel turned abruptly, heading toward the hidden alcove where his liquor collection shimmered. He poured himself a drink, the bourbon sliding down his throat like liquid fire, igniting a flicker of courage within him. "You can't let fear control you," he muttered. But the thought of Maria, her charred warning and penetrating stare reminded him of what was at stake. He staggered to his desk, its surface cluttered with papers and contracts, and opened the drawer where he kept his will. Underneath lay the key to his entire operation, a digital lockbox filled with secrets he curated over the years. He hesitated, then reached in, feeling the cold metal of the key he thought held no real use. What if Maria was right? What if the key was more than a tool for storage? What if it was the literal key to save his empire? Suddenly, the door rattled. The sound jolted him from his thoughts. Heart racing, he stashed the key back into the drawer and crept to the door, peering through the peephole. A dim figure stood outside, outlined by the faint light of the hall. Who was it? Instinct pushed him to grab the nearest object, a crystal decanter, as he turned the lock slowly, a bead of sweat trickling down the back of his neck. Nathaniel? It was Jacob, his security chief, voice low, tinged with urgency. We need to talk. Nathaniel opened the door a crack, eyes scanning the empty hallway. Is it safe? Not really, Jacob said, glancing over his shoulder. I've got intel. There is something big going down tonight. If what I heard is true, you're in more danger than you know. His pulse quickened again, dread pooling in his stomach. What? Who's coming for me? Jacob stepped closer, keeping his voice a whisper. I can't say here. Just trust me. We need to move somewhere secure. Now. Nathaniel's mind raced, hands trembling, holding onto the door as if it were the only thing keeping him grounded. The complex web of power he spun was unraveling before him, and he was caught in the middle. Okay, he finally said, inhaling a shaky breath. Let us go. But where? Jacob glanced down the hall. The basement. Secure, and I have a plan. As Nathaniel followed him, shadows loomed larger, anticipation prickling his skin. He couldn't shake the feeling that this was the turning point, the moment everything changed. The basement door creaked open, plunging them into darkness. Are you ready? Jacob whispered, voice barely audible. Nathaniel swallowed hard, knowing this was just the beginning. What answers lay beyond those darkened stairs? What did they have to confront? He stepped forward, a chill weaving through the air, feeling more alive than ever. Trust was a thin thread, and he couldn't afford to break it now. But as he took another step, he heard a faint rustling behind him. Would they make it to the basement before it caught up to them? The rustling intensified, a soft scuffle that raked against Nathaniel's nerves. He froze, pulse hammering in his ears. Jacob's eyes darted back to the dimly lit hallway, the tension thickening in the air. Nathaniel, we don't have time, Jacob urged, his voice edged with fear. We have to go now. Heart racing, Nathaniel tore his gaze from Jacob, muscles coiled tight. With one last glance toward the looming shadows, he stepped into the basement. The door swung shut behind him with a heavy thud, muffling the world above. The darkness enveloped him, chilling him to the bone. Do you think you'll be safe down here? Jacob asked, leading him further into the gloom. What do you know? Nathaniel shot back, the adrenaline making him sharper, more defensive. He regretted his tone the moment it left his lips, but pressed on. Just tell me what you found. Jacob paused, inhaling deeply. I don't think it's just a warning anymore. I fear someone is after your secrets. That key. It's not just to your lockbox. It's about the lives you've affected. Nathaniel clenched his fists at his sides. Truth echoed sharply in Jacob's words. In this dangerous world of deals and betrayals, how many had he crossed? Suddenly, a creaking sound pierced the air, and Nathaniel's breath caught. Do you hear that? He whispered, urgency ramping up his voice. It's just the pipes, Jacob replied, but something in his tone suggested he didn't believe it either. With each whispered breath, a sense of dread settled over them, knotting in Nathaniel's stomach. He forced himself to focus on the mission. So what's our plan? Jacob led him to a hidden corner where a small dusty workbench sat, cluttered with old tools and a single flickering light bulb hanging overhead. I've been working on this, Jacob said, pulling out a notepad filled with frantic scribbles. If we can access the server down here, we'll have leverage. I found something that may connect the dots between you. And Nathaniel leaned closer, scanning the notes. His stomach churned as he saw names, dates, places, people who had trusted him and now were potentially tied to whatever was brewing beyond the surface. There were even references to Maria. You think she was involved? I can't confirm it, but it's a possibility, Jacob said, biting his lip. We need to know what she knew. A cold shiver ran through Nathaniel. Maria had been more than a warning. If she truly held the threads to unraveling his carefully woven empire, it would make her the most dangerous player of all. But a sudden crash from the hallway jolted them both. Without thinking, Nathaniel grabbed Jacob's arm. Get behind the bench. They crouched low, hearts pounding. The door to the basement rattled violently, as if someone was trying to break in. Nathaniel's mind raced through scenarios. Was it an assassin? An insider? The noise crescendoed and Nathaniel's breath stilled. Speak to me, Jacob, he hissed, holding his breath. Just stay quiet, Jacob whispered, his eyes wide, searching the dimness. The door cracked open a fraction and a shadow slipped inside. Nathaniel's heart dropped into his stomach. It wasn't he, just anyone. In the flickering light, the figure stepped forward. Relief and dread flooded him simultaneously as recognition hit hard and true. It was Maria. Help me, she said, voice taut with panic. What had she gotten herself into? What did she know? And more importantly, could Nathaniel trust her now? As she lingered in the doorway, shadows danced around her, merging secrets, danger, and promises into a tangled web of betrayal that only deepened Nathaniel's fear. The stakes were higher than he'd ever imagined. But would she reveal her true intentions before it was too late? Maria's eyes darted around the basement, scanning the darkness like a hawk catching a glimpse of its prey. The flickering light above cast chaotic shadows that danced along the walls, and Nathaniel felt the weight of her presence crush his chest. Maria, what is going on? He demanded, keeping his voice low but urgent. His heart raced not just from fear but from the storm of emotions battling within him. The last time they'd spoken, things had ended ugly. They're coming, she said, breathless. You need to trust me now more than ever. A chill crept down Nathaniel's spine. Trust you? After everything? His mind reeled back to the secrets they had exchanged, the shadows that had enveloped their past. Betrayal and desperation had woven their relationship in darker threads. Jacob shifted behind the bench, his eyes wide with both skepticism and concern. Do you really think she's worth the risk? We don't even know if she's involved. I'm not involved, Maria cried, her voice a desperate whisper. Least not like you think. They've got intel on you, Nathaniel. They think you're holding something more than just secrets about your business. They want the key. It's just a key, Nathaniel spat, panic bubbling inside him. A useless piece to a lockbox. What could they want from me? More than you realize. She steadied her gaze, intensity burning in her eyes. It's not just about wealth or information. It's personal. He felt the rising walls of his world closing in, pressure building within him. What more could she mean? Suddenly, the sounds above escalated into a chaotic frenzy, footsteps charging across the floorboards, and deep, throaty shouts echoed through the cracks. The figure outside was no mere intruder. It sounded like a squad, and Nathaniel's heart plummeted. Nathaniel, Jacob hissed, pulling him back. We need to get out of here. We can't let them find us together. No, Nathaniel shot back, his eyes locked onto Maria's. I need to know what's really happening. You came to me. You can't just drop this bomb and leave. Not here. Maria pleaded, shaking her head. We can't talk here. They're listening and they'll know if we don't move now. A crash sounded from the landing above, and Nathaniel's instincts kicked in. Where do we go? Follow me, Maria beckoned urgently. She turned, ready to lead them deeper into the basement's concealed passages. Jacob didn't move. This is insane. You trust her? He glanced at Nathaniel with disbelief. Maybe this is our only option, Nathaniel whispered, doubt gnawing at him fiercely. Jacob, we might not get another chance. Before Jacob could argue, Maria had pressed forward, shadows undulating around her as she slipped into the deeper darkness. Nathaniel followed, pulled by both fear and the threads of an unresolved connection that still bound him to her. The air grew colder as they descended into the basement's hidden depths. Eerie silence enveloped them, the kind that blanketed the moment before a storm broke. Nathaniel could feel the dread bubbling beneath the surface, clinging to him like mist. Here. Take this, Maria urged, handing him a small flash drive. You'll need it to understand. When we're out of here, you need to see what's on this before anyone gets to us. He took it without thinking, palm sweaty against the cool plastic. Trust me, Nathaniel. We can figure this out together. But could he truly trust her? The question echoed as they moved deeper into the shadows, the sounds of pursuit growing louder behind them. Then, as they rounded a corner, silence fell abruptly and Nathaniel froze. Ladies and gentlemen, this wasn't just a chase anymore. This was war, and they were standing at the precipice. Do you hear that? Jacob whispered, his eyes narrowing. A low growl of voices crept into the eerie quiet, bringing with it a fresh wave of dread. They were here. And they weren't playing games. Nathaniel's heart raced like a freight train. Could they escape this time? Could they turn this into their advantage? As the shadows stirred ominously around them, Nathaniel braced for what lay ahead. Would Maria's trust prove to be his salvation or the ultimate betrayal? Maria's breath caught as the voices grew clearer, slicing through the heavy air like a knife. Her eyes widened, a mix of fear and determination pushing her forward. We have to keep moving, she urged, urgency reflected in her gaze. Nathaniel glanced back at Jacob, anxiety etched on his face. Can we make it out alive? He asked, his voice trembling. We will, Maria replied fiercely, but Nathaniel couldn't help but notice the slight quiver in her lips. They hurried down the narrow corridor, shadows stretching and twisting, consumed by the desperation surrounding them. Nathaniel felt a strange mix of trust creeping back in. Could this really be a fresh start? The chaos above might kill them if they stayed, but here was a choice. Or was it just more uncertainty? The way deepened, the air thickening with an unsettling cold. It felt almost alive, whispering secrets of betrayal and ancient wrongs. Nathaniel's heart beat harder, matching the drumming footfalls echoing behind them. Turn left, Maria commanded suddenly. There's a safe room ahead. We can hide there. Nathaniel's instincts screamed to resist. What if they find us? But seeing the resolve in her eyes anchored him. He nodded, pressing forward, moving through shadows that seemed to leer at him. As they reached the door, Maria yanked it open and shoved them both inside. The moment the door clicked shut, a wave of silence washed over them. The safe room was dim, only a scant sliver of light filtering through. Dust motes hung in the air, heavy with secrets. Nathaniel, listen. Maria's face was serious, her voice an urgent whisper. You need to know what you have. The key. Before she could finish, a thud reverberated through the door, the sound jarring. They held their breaths, tension stretching like a wire about to snap. Jacob pressed close to Nathaniel, eyes wide. They're looking for us, Jacob hissed, fear lacing his words. It's worse than that. Maria's gaze darted to the door. They know about the key. They know it can unlock much more than a box. What does that mean? Nathaniel asked, his voice cracking. It could expose everything, she replied, her voice lowering to a tremor. You're not just our target, you're the linchpin. If they get to you, they'll take everything. The revelation slammed into Nathaniel like a freight train. The flashes of the past, the arguments, the anger, the heartache burned away, replaced by a desperate sense of purpose. If it's just a key, why is it so vital? Maria leaned closer, her expression shifting, revealing the depths of her fear. Because it opens a connection, not just to your business, to something deeper, something that could destroy us all. Suddenly, another loud bang shook the room. Nathaniel jumped, adrenaline igniting his instincts. We need to act now. He glanced at Jacob, who was locked in fight or flight mode. Maria shook her head, urgency coloring her words. They won't stop until they find you. We have to figure out what the key unlocks, or the door rattled. A deep voice called from outside, tainted with authority and malice. Nathaniel, we know you're in there. Come out and we can talk this over. No way, Jacob retorted, his anger flaring. We're not giving in. But Nathaniel, ice coursing through his veins, recognized the voice. His stomach dropped. This was no ordinary chase. This was a reckoning. We'll never be safe if we don't confront this. Silence filled the room as the voices faded, leaving only the sound of their breathing. Nathaniel, we have options, Maria whispered urgently. But we need to choose fast. The key could be our only chance. His heart pounded in his chest. Was he really ready to confront the uncertain storm ahead? Could a single key change everything? As doubt struggled to find a foothold in his mind, Nathaniel gritted his teeth. Let us do it, he said, determination firming his resolve. We can't wait any longer. Maria nodded, a flicker of hope igniting in her eyes. But before they could move, Nathaniel felt the ground beneath them shift, vibrating with the weight of approaching footsteps. The moment held suspended. In trepidation, promise, and the eerie certainty that the outcome would redefine everything. What lay waiting in the dark might crumble their world or awaken their true potential. The door rattled again. The sound sent shivers down Nathaniel's spine. He exchanged worried glances with Maria and Jacob. The room felt smaller, suffocating as the footsteps outside grew louder and more erratic. He could almost hear the thumping of his heart against the walls of his chest. "There's no way we're giving up this easily," Nathaniel murmured, his voice barely rising above a whisper. He gripped the key tightly in his palm, its cold metal grounding him in the chaos. Whatever it unlocked might be their salvation, but first, they had to escape this room alive. "Do you have a plan?" Jacob asked, eyes darting to the door, then back to Nathaniel. "No." Nathaniel hesitated, feeling the weight of responsibility settle heavily on his shoulders. "But I know we can't stay here." Maria nodded in agreement, determination shining in her eyes. "We need to find a way out. Now." Drawing in a sharp breath, Nathaniel stepped back towards the door. Every moment felt like an eternity spent waiting for something terrible to happen. "We need to create a distraction. Something to draw them away." "Like what?" Jacob sounded grim. "Anything. Noise. Chaos." Nathaniel's mind raced. "Something that blindsides them." "Okay, but for how long?" Maria's brow furrowed in thought. "We won't have much time before they return." Without another moment's hesitation, Nathaniel opened the door just a crack, peering into the dimly lit corridor. He could see shadows moving, distorted shapes flitting through the gloom. He could feel the knot of anxiety tightening in his gut. "There's too many of them," he whispered. "Then we'll have to force our way through," Maria replied, her voice steady with resolve. "We can't wait for them to come to us." Just then the door slammed against the wall. A figure, tall and imposing, filled the doorway, a man clad in dark clothing, his expression masked by the shadows. "There you are," he boomed, sounding more amused than angry. "Run!" Nathaniel shouted, urging Jacob and Maria. They surged past him and into the corridor. Heart racing, Nathaniel clutched the key, his only hope amidst the growing storm. They sprinted down the hall, adrenaline fueling their flight, breaths quickening. The footsteps behind them escalated, a relentless pursuit. As they raced through the twisting labyrinth of darkness, Nathaniel glanced over his shoulder. The figure pursued them, flanked by two others equally menacing. They were gaining quickly. "Left!" shouted Maria, veering abruptly as Nathaniel followed. They stumbled into a larger room, lit by the flickering glow of overhead lights. Crates and debris littered the ground, providing potential cover. "Hide!" Jacob shouted, ducking behind a stack of crates. Nathaniel and Maria followed suit, hearts pounding, their breaths loud in the silence that engulfed them. The moment of stillness was intense. Each creak of the floor echoed like a gunshot. "Where do they go?" One of the men growled from somewhere deeper in the building. Their voices were low and threatening, almost calculated, plausibly enjoying the hunt. Nathaniel's mind raced. "What do they want with me?" he whispered, trembling hands pressed against the cool wood of the crate. "Whatever it is, it's tied to that key," Maria replied, her voice shaking slightly. Then a cacophony erupted as the men began to search the room. Crates were tossed aside, debris scattered. "I can feel it," someone spat. "We're close." "Damn it," Nathaniel muttered, every instinct roaring at him to run again. They needed to escape, but to where? With the men closing in, hiding wouldn't work for much longer. Out of sheer desperation, he pulled the key from his pocket. The dim light caught it, glinting ominously. "Maybe it's time we find out what this unlocks," he whispered, resolve hardening. "What? You have a plan?" Maria asked, her eyes wide with hope and fear. "Maybe. Just maybe it's the only way out." Before she could protest, Nathaniel dashed out from behind the crates, the key gripped tightly in his palm. "I'll find out what this leads to. You two stay hidden." "Wait," Jacob called, but it was too late. Nathaniel could feel the pounding of his heart as he raced toward the far side of the room, chasing a glimpse of light that always came back to the key. What unlocked it could either save them or doom them completely. As he neared the door, uncertainty clawed at him. But even as he reached for the handle, the men's voices behind him surged, turning into a fury of rage. Whatever lay beyond that door would unravel everything if he survived long enough to find out. What awaited Nathaniel on the other side might challenge his very existence or perhaps finally reveal the truth he so desperately sought. Nathaniel's hand shook as it hovered above the door handle. A rush of adrenaline blurred his thoughts, but he pushed through the chaos in his mind. He turned the handle and swung the door wide open. Bright light flooded in, illuminating a staircase spiraling downwards. The air was thick, heavy with an earthy musk, and the metallic tang of something ominous. As he took a step forward, a chilling voice echoed behind him. "Where do you think you're going?" The figure that had first chased them, now closer, shoved his way into the room, flanked by his two companions. Their faces twisted with triumph as they caught sight of Nathaniel. "Back off!" Nathaniel yelled, instinctively raising the key like a weapon. He had no idea if it would do him any good, but desperation churned within him. "You really think that will help you?" The towering man sneered, crossing his arms. "You have no idea what you're holding." Nathaniel's heart raced as the truth sunk in. "What do you want with me?" "Why me?" "Because of what's in that keyhole," one of the other men replied, menacingly bouncing on his heels. "It opens doors to power that you can't understand yet. And it's all going to be ours. Time to choose, Nathaniel." The third man chimed in mockingly, gesturing toward the staircase. "With us or against us? Make your decision. Run." A voice cut into the moment. It was Maria. She had slipped out from behind the crates. "Nathaniel, the other way." But the men moved quickly, blocking their escape, laughter dripping from their lips. "You think you can just run? This is a game you can't win." With no choice, Nathaniel bolted down the staircase without thinking, guided by instinct. He dropped the key, but he didn't dare to look back. His feet pounded down the cold, stone steps as shadows danced around him. He could hear their shouts fading behind, though the echo reverberated ominously. "Where does this lead?" He screamed into the void. The place felt alive, as if every stone had a story to tell. Breathless, Nathaniel pushed deeper, driven by pulsating dread. But soon he felt something shift around him. The corridor narrowed and twisted, and the air grew heavier. It was a trap, he could sense it. The walls felt as if they were closing in on him, rushing him towards an unseen fate. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps thundered down behind him. They were not far now. Adrenaline surged and Nathaniel sprinted faster, his feet slipping on the damp stone. He could taste the fear, thick and bitter, in his mouth. Just a little further. He gasped to himself, willing his legs to move. At last, he reached the bottom of the stairs and came to an abrupt halt, staring wide-eyed at a massive door embedded within ancient stone. A deep carving of a keyhole mocked him, inviting yet threatening. The panic surged again. What if he used the key? He had dropped it while running. Then he remembered something. Jacob. He must have picked it up. Nathaniel turned abruptly, just as he heard the familiar voices echoing through the corridor. They were closing in on him with every ounce of energy. He raced back up the steps, heart hammering in his chest. Please let them be safe," he prayed, willing himself to get back to his friends before it was too late. As he burst through the door of the room, he found Jacob stumbling, the key held tightly in his hand, with a look of horror on his face. "Nathaniel, you can't go back there." But behind him the shadows shifted closer. The men had regrouped. They were ready to pounce. In this crucial moment, Nathaniel faced the grim urgency of their situation. He could either confront the danger or trust in his friends to find the hidden truths together. Nathaniel felt the weight of choice bearing down on him. This was not just about escaping. It was about the unraveling mystery of his existence. "Trust me," he whispered to Jacob and Maria, a fragile sense of hope igniting within him. With the key poised for revelation, the air still felt electric with uncertainty. He waited for a sign, a whisper, anything that could guide him forward. But what if stepping forward unlocked more than just a door? What if it opened Pandora's box of danger? Fear trembled in the air like a live wire. Nathaniel's heartbeat thundered in sync with the footsteps behind him. He glanced at Jacob and Maria, their eyes wide with worry and disbelief. The key was still clasped tightly in Jacob's hand, glinting like a beacon in the darkness. "We have to go. Now," Nathaniel urged, but doubt seeped into his voice. Was it really worth risking everything to face the twisted trio again? Just then, laughter erupted from the shadows, chilling Nathaniel to his core. "You think you can escape us? This is just the beginning. Forget them," Maria shouted, her determination igniting a spark within Nathaniel. "We can't let them get what they want. We have the key." The enormous door loomed ahead, a silent witness to their fear. Its ancient surface seemed to pulse with a strange energy, whispering promises of both salvation and doom. Nathaniel glanced at the key. It felt heavier now, burdened with the weight of choices that could shatter everything. "Jacob, is it safe to use the key?" Nathaniel asked, mind racing. "I don't know if we'll even have time. They're almost here." A palpable sense of dread washed over Nathaniel, but Maria's urgency pushed him forward. "Now or never," he declared, rushing forward. Jacob followed closely, and with a swift motion, Nathaniel thrust the key into the keyhole. It clicked, the sound echoing through the air like the end of a countdown. The door trembled and shadows danced in the dim light. He gripped the handle, anticipation and fear colliding in a whirlwind. "Open it," Maria urged, her voice barely a whisper. Taking a deep breath, Nathaniel pulled the door. It groaned as it swung wide, revealing an expansive cavern bathed in golden light. The once oppressive atmosphere shifted, quelling some of the dread. It was mesmerizing, but the beckoning warmth felt more like a trap than a sanctuary. "Is this?" Jacob started, but Nathaniel interrupted him, stepping into the doorway. "Only one way to find out," he replied, heart racing. As they stepped through, the cool air washed over them, chilling the sweat on his back. The vast underground chamber opened before them, filled with relics and ancient artifacts shimmering under the glow of glowing crystals. It was a hidden world untouched by time. "We're not alone," Maria's voice trembled as they moved deeper, eyes darting wildly. Suddenly, the sound of heavy footsteps reverberated through the chamber. Nathaniel turned to see their pursuers nearing the threshold, shadowy figures silhouetted against the radiant glow behind them. "Fools! You've just walked into our playground," the towering man bellowed. Eyes glinting with a predatory gleam, panic surged again. Nathaniel felt it rise in his throat, but then he noticed something near the center of the cavern, a pedestal holding a glowing, pulsating orb. It throbbed with energy, almost beckoning him. "What is that?" Jacob asked, the awe in his voice mirroring Nathaniel's own desperation. "I don't know, but we can't let them get their hands on it," Nathaniel replied urgently. "Time to grab it," Maria said, setting her gaze on the orb, determination etched across her face. "Wait." Nathaniel paused. "What if it's a trap? What if it's our only chance to protect ourselves? We're not here to play games." Maria moved forward, and without thinking, Nathaniel followed. They approached the pedestal, but as Nathaniel stretched his hand towards the orb, a blinding flash erupted from it. The world around him distorted and shimmered, shadows clawing at the corners of his vision. He felt a force pulling him, tugging at his soul. "Get down!" Jacob shouted, but Nathaniel didn't hear it above the roar. His mind was racing, consumed by flashes of possible futures, each more terrifying than the last. Then everything went dark. Nathaniel awoke in the cavern, disoriented, gasping for air. The orb flickered softly, and the shadows had vanished. But his friends were gone. No, he whispered, panic clawing at his chest. "Where are they?" And then from the darkness, a voice echoed back, low and menacing. "You should have stayed away, Nathaniel." Now everything has changed. What had he awakened? And could he even save his friends? Nathaniel's heart raced, a frantic drum echoing in his ears. He blinked into the darkness, trying to catch his breath, but every inhale felt heavier than the last. The cavern, once a place of wonder, now felt like a prison, its cold walls closing in on him. "Where are you?" he called out, voice quivering. But only silence answered him, stretching endlessly like an abyss. He scrabbled to his feet, still swirling in confusion. The glowing orb pulsated softly, its light cutting through the blackness, teasing him with promises of answers. But as he approached the pedestal, dread swallowed him whole. What had he unleashed? Jacob? Maria? His voice cracked, desperation edging into his tone. He stepped closer to the orb, reaching out hesitantly. It radiated heat that felt almost alive under his fingertips. An instinct deep within him whispered that this wasn't just a treasure. It was a conduit of something ancient and powerful. He hesitated, thoughts racing. Maybe there was a way to control it, to harness its energy. Nathaniel felt a strange pull towards it, as if echoing the voice from before, coaxing him, beckoning him. But was it truly his ally or another facet of the dark force that had haunted their steps? Suddenly, a rumble shook the chamber, startling him. He stumbled back, narrowly avoiding the pedestal. The shadows, now thicker and more tangible, began to swirl around him, coalescing into forms he recognized. Figures flickered in and out, their faces twisted with malice. No, he gasped, realization sinking in. They were the Twisted Trio, their laughter echoing off the cavern walls like a thunderous storm. What do you want? The towering man from before emerged, his presence overwhelming. We wanted this place to remain undisturbed. But look what you've done. Nathaniel's chest tightened like a vice. I didn't mean to, he shouted, the heat rising in his cheeks. I just wanted to protect my friends. Ha! Protect them? The man stepped closer, the light from the orb illuminating the cruel grin cutting across his face. You've sealed their fate the moment you unleashed it. Nathaniel felt his knees tremble under the weight of those words. He thought of Jacob and Maria, their faces crestfallen after the doors had shut. The crushing fear of losing them constricted his throat. Guilt washed over him and he staggered back, feeling utterly alone. But before he could spiral down any further, an unexpected warmth washed over him from the orb. A vision flashed in his mind, a glimpse of Jacob and Maria trapped in another realm, calling out for help. They were alive. Hope flared within him, lighting his way through the darkness. I'll save them, Nathaniel declared, the resolve crashing like a tidal wave over his fear. Whatever it takes. Laughter erupted from the trio, a symphony of mockery that sent a chill down his spine. You truly believe you can? You have no idea what you're meddling with. Ignoring their taunts, Nathaniel lifted his hands towards the orb, feeling its power thrumming beneath his skin. I can't let you win, he shouted, the words bolstered by a rush of adrenaline. As he focused on the orb, channels of light surged through him, illuminating the darkness. The energy felt pure and chaotic, but he embraced it, pulling it tight around his heart like armor against the inevitable confrontation. Then, a crack echoed through the air. The orb began to destabilize, spitting out vibrant colors and shadows that twirled around him. The room filled with light and noise, blurring the lines between the forces of light and dark. Fool! You will regret this, the towering man roared, but Nathaniel felt no fear, only an overwhelming urge to protect his friends. Then amid the chaos, everything snapped to silence. The orb flickered violently, and Nathaniel's heart dropped as he realized it was tearing open a portal, a gateway into another world. He had to make a choice. Step into the unknown, risking everything, or face the Twisted Trio for the last time. Gritting his teeth, Nathaniel stepped toward the portal, ready to confront the chaos that lay ahead. But as he crossed the threshold, the world swirled, and he found himself standing not in darkness, but in a brilliant landscape, their reality now intertwined with the formless night. And he heard it again, the voice whispering promises and threats that could change everything. Welcome, Nathaniel. Now your real test begins. What awaited him on the other side? And would he find Jacob and Maria before it was too late? The whirlwind of light and sound settled into an unfamiliar calm. Nathaniel stood at the threshold, breathing heavily, heart pounding. The shimmering landscape before him felt dreamlike, almost too bright to comprehend. Colors danced vibrantly, swirling like a canvas unraveled. Everything breathed life, flowers blooming in bursts of crimson, violet skies swirling with hints of gold. But amidst the beauty, an unsettling emptiness lay beneath it all. Jacob, Maria. His voice echoed, yet there was no response. Panic filled his chest, heavy and suffocating. Had they made it through? Had he failed them? A distant rustle caught his attention, and Nathaniel turned sharply. Out of the murky shadows, two figures emerged. Relief rushed through him like a tidal wave. Maria! Jacob! He ran toward them, arms outstretched, ready to embrace them again, but as he drew closer, he froze. The two figures morphed into shadows intertwined. Their eyes glimmered with a twisted hunger, devoid of the warmth he craved. You think you can just waltz back in? One voice taunted low, menacing one of the twisted trio. No, they're not the shadows you think. They're my friends, Nathaniel shouted, anger surging hotly against the creeping despair. No longer the figure sneered. They chose this fate the moment you took the key. He felt a lurch in his heart. Pain crackled through him like lightning. Stepping toward them slowly, he whispered, "Fight it. You have to fight it." The shadows flickered, oscillating between Nathaniel's friends and the twisted trio. Nathaniel came a soft voice that sounded like Maria, full of uncertainty yet strained under pressure. "Help us." Fueled by determination, he stepped forward, reaching into the light that streamed from the orb pulsing in the distance. Intuition surged through him. This light held the answers to save them. As he stepped closer, the energy coursing through his body ignited his resolve. "Don't you feel that?" he called out, voice steady and fervent. "Whatever darkness this is, we can overcome it together. You don't have to be part of this." The shadows flickered like dying flames. "No," the towering figure barked, arms crossed defiantly. "The shadows reflect your choices, Nathaniel. Release your friends or embrace the dark." Fear gripped Nathaniel's heart, squeezing it tightly. But he shook his head vigorously. "I won't trade them for your twisted version of power." He clutched the glowing orb, feeling its warmth wash over him like a beacon through the storm. With a scream, he plunged himself into the energy, pushing against the tide of darkness that swirled around him. Light burst forth, slicing through the shadows, enveloping Jacob and Maria. The essence of the orb shimmered, weaving golden threads through their forms. "Fight it! Break free!" Nathaniel shouted desperately. Maria and Jacob's forms began to shimmer, twisting in conflict, but slowly it was working. The darkness flickered, revealing their true selves beneath the shadows that sought to consume them. Nathaniel's heart raced as their eyes cleared, locking onto his. "Nathaniel, we're here," Jacob breathed deeply, shaking off the remnants of the darkness. "Yes, together," Nathaniel shouted, realizing they could break the bonds. He reached toward them, hands outstretched, feeling hope ignite within him. They formed a circle, hands clasped together, and as they stood unified, an incredible pulse of energy wrapped around them. The shadows writhed, trying to push forward, but the connection grew stronger, light battling dark. The towering figure's voice erupted in fury. "No, you can't defy us. You will fall." But Nathaniel felt the energy amplify, seeing colors of light exploding around them, brighter than he'd ever imagined. A flash surged outwards like a supernova, overwhelming everything, and Nathaniel felt the bond with his friends weave deep into his being. "Now," Nathaniel commanded, heart pounding with conviction. The shadows screeched and roared as they pushed against the immense surge of light. "Reclaim your power," he urged. With one united breath, they released their hold over the darkness that pressed against them, sending a radiant beam of light to envelop the shadowy figures. The cave's walls shook, a deafening roar echoing through the air as the ethereal energy fractured the darkness. And a brilliant flash, the trio surrounded by golden light broke free from the shadow's grasp, their true forms shimmering with clarity and warmth. "We're free," Maria gasped, relief flooding over her features. "I won't let you take them," Nathaniel yelled defiantly at the retreating figures. With the final wave of light, the three bundled into its embrace, and just as quickly as they had materialized, the shadows dissolved, swallowed by the brilliance. The cavern dimmed slightly, the tension lifting. The three friends stood together, breathing heavily, uncertainty shimmering between them. How did we make it?" Jacob whispered, eyes wide. "You believed," Nathaniel responded, still shaking from the upheaval. "When we joined together, the light broke the chains." Maria's expression softened. A resilient determination replaced fear. "But what about the key?" "For now," Nathaniel murmured, still cradling the orb, "it was never just about the key. It was about our choices. Together we can face anything. No darkness can hold us down if we stand united." As Nathaniel turned his gaze to where the shadows had once stood, a quiet thing flickered within him, a promise that they could overcome. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. With newfound hope lighting their way, they stepped forward, ready to reclaim their lives, determined to turn the page on the shadows of the past. And so together they ventured deeper into the light, leaving behind the darkness that had threatened to consume them. "Before you go, This is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now and join our community, so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that are coming. Smash that like button to feed the algorithm and help us grow. We want to hear from you. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. What do you think will happen next for Nathaniel, Jacob, and Maria? How did they overcome the darkness? Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Let us spread the word and keep this incredible journey going.